Welcome to the Cybersecurity Competition Federation show. I'm Dan Manson. I teach computer information systems at Cal Poly Pomona and serve as principal investigator for a National Science Foundation grant to help form an umbrella organization over cybersecurity competitions. The Cybersecurity Competition Federation can support the development of skill at a large scale by bringing cybersecurity competitions under an umbrella organization, which will help players of all ages and skill levels identify a point of entry into a continuum of cybersecurity competition experiences. With a focus on communication and promotion, the CCF maintains the autonomy of competition creators, supports their business models, and does not interfere with their sponsorship or funding sources. Wikipedia defines a Chief Information Security Officer, CISO, as the senior level executive within an organization responsible for establishing and maintaining the enterprise vision, strategy, and program to ensure information assets and technologies are adequately protected. CISOs are the captains of the cybersecurity ship in an organization. Can cybersecurity competitions help CISOs navigate these seas of risk? To help us answer this and related questions, joining us today is Dan Ford, Chief Security Officer for Blackphone and Silent Circle. Welcome, Dan, to the CyberFed show.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
It's great to have both you and Jason here. I think you and Jason have known each other for a number of years. How did you first get together?
Well, Dan and I originally met in our doctorate program. We both were in the same starting cohort, and we went through the program together. And then when I moved to Maryland to finish my doctorate and to start teaching full-time, I ended up by chance living across the street from Dan. So we started to develop a deeper personal relationship. And it's at a point now where we also do some business together.
Mm-hmm. Great. And both of you have been involved in cybersecurity competitions over the years. Dan, what was your introduction to competitions?
My first introduction that I'd had was when I was working for McAfee. We used to participate in some of the CTFs that occurred with the Department of Defense down at National Defense University. So at that point I was on the competition, I was a competitor at that point. And then later over at Capital Tech, where Jason and I met, they have a CCDC team. And so Jason was coaching that. I'd come in, kind of help out every once in a while, mentor some of the other competitors, or whatever you want to call the people competing, but the team members, in order to try to give them strategy on what it is that I would do as an attacker and what I would do as someone on the defense side of the house.
So you've been involved in competitions as a player and as someone who hires people who have competition experience, but you've also played a sport over the years.
Sure.
I believe you spent a number of years playing baseball.
Are
there similarities between developing yourself as an athlete, say in a sport like baseball, and developing yourself as a cybersecurity professional through competition?
Sure. I actually would think to me, there's a direct correlation to baseball as there is with security and competitions. I would say I've probably learned more about security through baseball than I did outside of it. And I start to try to place that as part of my overall program now. And that is, you're only as strong as the weakest link on your team. You can only be as good as the worst hitter on your team. Well, your security is only as good as the most unpatched system that you have, or that lonely sysadmin that has got to be monitoring the network at 3 o'clock in the morning. With competitions, it's kind of the same thing. We have systems, we give these teams systems that aren't patched. They don't know what state they're getting them in. So they have to not only act as the attacker, they also have to start figuring out how they're going to defend themselves against other attackers, which is practically real world. It's real world is what we can get. And for them, the mentality is real world. You can start seeing them under pressure, because that pressure is the same thing that they're feeling as what we're going to feel in the real world. Because to them, that is their ego. And it's just like it's my ego, with where I'm at Silent Circle. If we're compromised or in the middle of an incident, that's my reputation. That's Silent Circle's reputation.
And I think the analogies carry forward too when you incorporate esports. You still have the team, you still have the league and the sport itself, and what you see, just like in cyber competitions and just like baseball as a physical traditional sport, this idea that there's common rules, so every game plays out in a certain way, right? People take turns batting, people take turns fielding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But within that, there's this emergent chance, right? I mean, some people might hit home runs one game and not the next, or vice versa. And that adds to the variety of how things work out. Just like in a cyber competition, people know how Windows works, but how Windows works in that competition itself and what's going on with the red team and the white team and the blue team and all these different colors, right? You get this emergent dynamicism, which is super attractive.
Yeah, I think the esports analogy is a good one. We saw an article just a few days ago about how an esports team hired as their coach someone who was a sports coach, I believe, even in baseball.
Yeah, yeah.
In terms of coaching a team, is that a skill that you think will be developing over time, just like coaching a baseball team or coaching esports? And is it going to relate to what you have to do as a CISO?
You know, I'm going to have to say yes. It will. You know, as competitions evolve, as cybersecurity as a profession evolves, you have to be able to instill upon a team. It's almost like a manager. In this case, you know, they have to know what skills they need. They need to know how to develop them skills. And even if the manager isn't necessarily quite good at, we'll say, malware analysis, it doesn't mean that they can't still help them in getting malware analysis. Just like my job as a CISO, I may not know the direct answer to every question. But this is the reason why I've got Jason. This is the reason why I've got Ian, who's my deputy. I don't have to know all the answers, but I have to be very good at finding the right people that I can trust to be able to give me the right answers, because I know enough about enough of the skill sets that are required. I can tell whether or not someone is feeding me a line. So when it comes back to the competition aspect, that manager of the team has to be able to know enough about all of the skills required to be successful at competitions in order to put together the right team. Because, you know, I don't need 10 people on a team that are all great at malware analysis, because that may only be a part of the overall competition. But I need to be able to have people that can do network security. They got to be able to build firewalls. They got to be able to build intrusion detection systems. They've got to be able to understand the signatures. They've got to be able to communicate with the person that can do the malware analysis to create the new signature for that intrusion detection. Because Heartbleed, if we take Heartbleed, for example, that could have been easily solved with the snort rule. We would have known, we would have seen this. So the manager just has to be also well-rounded enough to be able to help these competition teams get better and be able to find the resources to be able to help them, because these students are probably not going to know where they need to go.
So the college competitions have been around for over 10 years now. The high school competition started in 2009 with Cyber Patriot, the major one that we have today. They branched out into middle schools in 2013. Are we going down the road, and do you think we should go down the road where you can start young, at a T-ball age or maybe a little bit older, and learn through these competitions and have that be a way to progress into becoming a cybersecurity professional?
I don't see why not. I started my son at roughly around 10 years old. And I think as a lot of the security professionals are having kids, they're starting to do the same thing. I mean, DEF CON's got a whole category for DEF CON kids. And we're teaching them basic things like lock picking, social engineering. You know, my son did an interview when he was 12, and they asked him, why do you like lock picking? And he said, you know, it kind of gets my mind set on cracking passwords. It's a game, it's a puzzle. And so why not? I mean, it doesn't, we think about hacking or competitions in such a way that we have to always be behind a keyboard, but a lot of it is just getting them figuring out how to use critical thinking skills and just solving a puzzle, because security is just a puzzle.
Well, and I also think part of it too, and especially in that like 10 to 12-year-old range, it's perfect because it continues to promote creativity and curiosity right at that critical time when a lot of traditional education is starting to kind of push that down in favor of rote memorization. And I think in your experience, both Dans, you'll agree that in information security, in any incarnation, it's not about rote memorization. That won't save you. That won't help you. Being able to respond dynamically and adjust your strategy and be curious about things is what saves you.
We talk about muscle memory on the show. And I know as an athlete, you understand how you develop that. You
Right.
basically can react and make a play without even having to think.
Sure.
But I do think that carries over into, say, incident response, into aspects of
Absolutely.
cybersecurity.
Sure. I mean, the first thing any sysadmin should do when they get onto a new system is the first thing to take a look at what patch level am I at. I mean, if we teach that and we go, oh my gosh, we are at patch A and we should be on patch F, why are we not there? They should start asking those questions. It comes back down to situational awareness. I should always be looking to understand the environment I'm in prior to going to trying to correct a change or something like that, because we don't know the reasons yet.
And is that kind of like understanding your playing field?
Sure.
And understanding how you've positioned yourself on that playing field, where the holes are, where someone can get through?
Absolutely. If I was a pitcher and I'm on the mound, I want to know exactly the way in which the slope is being done, so that way, I'm not going to hurt myself. If I'm the second baseman, I'm going to start taking a look at areas around the base, the path, how the ball bounces coming off the turf. So why would I not want to do that from a digital aspect? I want to know what type of firewall is being protected. Is it stateful? Is it packet filter? Am I using open source? Is it IP tables? Am I using something like pfSense? I need to know that, because all of these particular technologies have strengths and weaknesses. And so the whole idea, getting back to the sports analogy, is that if I'm only as strong as the weakest link, I need to continuously bring up my weakest link to a level that is higher than the skill level of the bad actor that's trying to attack me.
Thank you, Dan.
Sure, thank you.
If you have a competition you would like us to cover in a future show, please contact us at cyberfed.org. I'm Dan Manson. See you next week.